Hello everyone, Amod here from Target.com YouTube channel, and today we are going to learn about generics in Java. So the first topic in this playlist we are going to learn is what is generics in Java and what is generic class. So before I start with the definition of generics and why we use it and what is the syntax and all, let's try to understand some problem statement and then I will come back to generics concept. So suppose you want to have a class and that class is responsible to print an integer value. Okay, means you can set the value and you can print it. Okay, or maybe set or get a kind of thing. So let me jump to Eclipse and let me create a class called something called print or store integer value. Okay, so it's done. Now what I am going to do, I am going to create one constructor like public, or before constructor I will define one variable, and the type of this variable I will keep at integer because this class will be responsible to store and print an integer value. Okay, so I'll do integer value and I will have a constructor here public, and this constructor will accept one value that will be the type of integer again, and simply I am assigning the local value to whatever you are passing. Means whenever we call this constructor, we need to pass a integer value, and that value I will simply assigning to the private variable. So if someone wants to get the value, so I will have one method called public integer get value. Okay, and this method will be responsible to simply give me the value whatever I have set it. So this is a very simple class where I have simply one private variable, the type of this variable is integer, and then I have one constructor which is responsible to set the value of this integer, this value, and then I have another method called get value, and this will return me the value. Okay, that's all. Let me go and use it in another class. So I'll create another class called store value. Okay, and this store value I am going to have one main method, and I will create an object of store integer class. Okay, so siv new store. So we know that this constructor accept one argument, so what we need to pass, we need to pass one value, integer value. So let me pass 10, and then if I do siv dot get value, right, you can see this is returning an integer value. So let me store into integer. I will simply store it like this, integer value. Okay, let me print this one value, right? Very simple programming, very simple code, two simple classes, and I am just calling one class into another class, right? And we are getting the value as 10. Now you get the requirement. I also want a class in which I can store a double and I can get the double value. You will think and say, okay, no problem. I have already one class called store integer value. I am simply going to duplicate this. So what I am to do, just duplicate this. So instead of integer, I will just pass double. Okay, so let me open this particular class, that is new class, and instead of integer, just I am going to use the double, right? Like here again double, it should return a double. Okay, problem sorted. So let me go and use the same thing. Let me copy this syntax of code. Instead of integer, I'm going to use store double value. Okay, and it will be same thing here, and instead of integer this time I will pass 10.5, right? And what I will do, I will do name as sib1. This will be sib1, and instead of integer this time it will return double. Okay, need to print the value 1. Okay, so it's working fine, right? It's print 10 and 10.5. So if you see this code, like we have created two different classes where one will be responsible to store and print the integer value, another is responsible for double. So suppose if you get another type, so you may end up with creating duplicate classes, okay, where just the type is changing. So you will come, okay, no, I have some another option and I know that object class is the super class of all the classes. Then instead of creating classes like this, I will create a single class and I will use the object class there. How? So let me copy this class again. Let me create duplicate of this actually. So in this time, instead of mentioning the type, I will simply name store any value. So in this class, what I'm going to do, instead of defining integer or double, I will simply use object. Okay, so here again it will not be integer, you need to put object, here also object. So what we have done, because we know that object is a super class of all the classes, so whatever use integer or double which are replica classes, the super class of those classes are object. So using this you can store any value, like string you can store, you can put any data type, you can pass any type, class type, interface type, whatever you want to do you can pass it here, because object can hold those values. Good, right? We resolve the problem of duplicate classes. Let me go and use this new class in program. So now instead of integer or double, I will use simple store any value. So sav equal to new store any value, right? So now instead of asking for integer double, this is asking for object type, what value you want to print. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I am going to put something called suppose 10, okay, or 11. So if I do sav dot what do you call that, get value, okay, so again it is returning you an object type. See, if I try to store this in integer directly, okay, so we see it is giving one error. What is the error? If you do the mouse over, you can see here type mismatch, cannot convert from object to integer. Since this class has the value that called variable and value, and the type is object. So here what I am directly doing, whatever value it is returning, okay, directly I am casting to integer. Directly I am saying that I want to store this into integer. So it will complain. It will say no, I cannot directly, I don't know whether you can convert it or not. Okay, so what it is saying that you need to explicitly cast it. Okay, you can see in the first option, add cast to integer, means you need to explicitly say, okay, this particular method will return me something which can be casted to integer. Okay, then you can print it. Sys out value 1, then it's fine. Okay, so what we needed to do here, we need to use the explicit casting. But see what will happen if I pass the 11.5. okay, 11.5 is double, and that value I am trying to cast to integer. Let's see what is the output. Okay, we see the exception. What is saying that exception threadman, double cannot be cast to integer. Okay, double cannot be cast to the integer because this get value is returning me double value and we are trying to cast it to integer. That's why it is giving you the error here. So for this you need to simply cast it to double. Okay, then now it will work perfectly fine. If I run it now, it will run perfectly fine. So what are the problems we seen? First problem, we saw that we are getting the duplicate value, duplicate classes, okay, based on the types. Then again we come to know, okay, we can use the supermost class, that is object class, instead of mentioning the types. So in that also it resolved the problem of creating duplicate classes or multiple classes, but it requires us to explicitly cast it. Without casting, we cannot use the value. Okay, this is called casting, right? So all these two problems can be resolved using the Genex. Okay, so what is Genex? So let me go and again duplicate this class, store value or store any value. Okay, and I will name it as with Genex. Okay, let me open this class, and here what you need to do anything, what you need to do actually, you see this is the class name. For Genex, what you can do, instead of ending the class definition here, you can use the diamond like this, and you can put one alphabet here. Okay, that can be anything. You can not alphabet, you can alpha means any name you can give. Suppose if I give the name here as T. Okay, so this T actually, if you see in the store integer value we have this integer, in store double value we have double, so we don't know what type will be there. Okay, it should support any type. So if you are not sure which type, maybe this class which type it should accept, or it can accept any type and it should proceed, right? In that case you can use the diamond option, put a alphabet here. Okay, you can give any name also, that doesn't matter. Okay, but T stands for type parameter. Okay, then what I am saying, that instead of object I will mention is T. Okay, and again here also T, wherever we get the object, just simply replace it. Okay, so how we are going to read this class? I have a class called store any value with Genex, and this particular class can hold a type called a value of type T. Okay, this T can be object, this T can be integer, this T can be double, this T can be string, this T can be boolean, anything. This T can be of any user defined types as well. Okay, suppose if you create a class called employee, you can pass that type as well. So what is the use here? If I go to again this particular class, store value, I will simply comment all this thing. Okay, what I'm going to say, that store any value with Genex. Okay, this time I'm going to create an object of this particular class, and here you can see as soon as you do the control space, it is coming T here. It is saying that okay, let me know what type of value you are going to use. Okay, I will say that I am going to use integer. Okay, then give the like s1 object name, then new store any value with Genex. So you can pass whatever value you want, you can pass 10. Okay, so what it is saying, that this particular class, in this we created an object of this class with the integer type. So actually this is actually this class, all the T will be replaced. Okay, whatever T we are using here, all T will be replaced with the integer, and this class is similar to this class now. Okay, now if I go and try to do s1 dot get value, you can see it is returning an integer, right? Whatever we see in the example for this first one, same thing we are getting here. Okay, you can store into one integer v1, and you can print it. So let me run this program, and we should see the same output. Now I don't want to store integer, I want to store double. So very simple, simply let me copy paste this code. Instead of using the integer, I will use the double. Okay, just need to change the type parameter, nothing to change. So now this particular object will be like this class. Okay, then when you do the s2 dot get value, this time you're going to get the double, right? You can see, let me convert to double first. okay, in v2. Okay, and here also into pass 10.5. Okay, so let me run a Java application. We can see the 10 and 10.5. So first problem we resolved, right? We are not going to get multiple classes now based on the type. We get a store integer value, store double value. There's no need to create it because we have one generic class now, and this generic class you can use to uh, store any type of value. Right? We just saw the example here. We are using the single class only. Okay, so first problem resolved. What is the second problem? Second problem is that explicit casting. If I am creating a generic class with the integer as a type parameter, if I try to pass 10.5, what will happen? It is giving you an error. What it is saying that the constructor store any value with Genex of integer double is undefined. Okay, it is saying that you have passed the parameter as integer. Okay, then why you are passing 10.5? This is not a valid. Okay, so for that, this way it's giving you error at the run compile time only. Okay, so that's why it is complaining here. Suppose here we know this, we have created one generic class, okay, where we are passing the double and I am passing 10.5. If I try to go and cast it to integer, okay, I know that s2 dot get value is going to give me double, but I am trying to store into integer. Then again it is giving you one compile time error, which it is saying that time mismatch cannot convert from double to integer, right? And it is we are not going to get any runtime exception, right? We just saw that earlier. It was not giving any error, but at the runtime it was giving the error. So if you try to do the same thing with the generic class, then you are going to get the exception at compile time itself. Like here you can see it's giving you the error. So let me change it to double only. So you saw we had two problems. First thing, we have the multiple classes to handle different data types. We tried to job that using the object class, but again we are facing the runtime exceptions. So we created one generic class where we pass the type parameter, and using that we can have, like, you can store any value, and also we can eliminate the runtime exception, because if you are trying to mismatch the types, then it is giving you the runtime error, compile time error only. Okay, so whatever you see here, this is called a generic class. Okay, if you are passing the t or any value or any name, that is called generic class. You can ask why t. If you want to pass anything, like suppose I want to pass Amod, okay, this is also valid, but you need to change, instead of all the t, to change the value. Sorry, my name. It is valid, completely valid. If I go and run this class again, I will get the same output. Okay, but t is the standard practice, and whenever you see this one in a generic class, so there are multiple. You can use the character. I will show you that what is the standard, but most of the places you will see the t only. Okay, all done. So let me go and read through some lines which I have created. So what is Genex in Java? If someone asks you what is Genex in Java, then you should be able to answer it like, when we parameterize a class, interface or method, that is called Genex. Using Genex you can parameterize it. Okay, what is parameterize? You are using like this. Okay, so you are doing the parameterization of a class or interface or method. I will cover the interface and method in upcoming videos, but in this class, in this video, we are parameterizing or using the parameter with the class. So this is called generic. This is called generic class. Okay. So a generic type is a generic class or interface that is parameterized over types. Okay, correct. Whatever types we have, that we are parameterizing. At the usage, you want to pass integer, you want to pass double, you want to pass string, whatever you want to pass, you can use it, pass it. Then again, it is type safe. We have seen how it is type safe. Eliminate runtime exception. We got the runtime exception when it was not able to cast it. Then no explicit type casting required. Okay. if we are using the object, so we need to skip the runtime exception, we need to explicitly cast it to integer or double, right? We have seen the example. So if I are using the generic type, okay, generic class, there's no need to use this explicit typecasting. Okay, so you can see I was just mentioning that you can see so many parameter names like E. If I use any collection framework class interface, then you can see E, then key is for the key, N for number, T for type, V for value, and then SUB like for second, third, and fourth type. So we'll cover this concept, means a class can have multiple parameters as well. Okay, so one more thing, if you see here in the store value, I am passing the type here, okay, and then I'm also writing the same thing here also. If you're using Java 1.7 or above, then there's no need to pass this one, okay. And one more thing I forgot to mention, this particular Genex feature was introduced in Java 1.5. So make sure that if you want to use generic concept, then you need to use Java 1.5 and above. So here the same like in Java SE7 and later, you can replace the type arguments required to invoke the constructor with generic class with an empty set of type argument. Confusing? Simple answer, you can no need to mention it here again. Okay, you can use it. What will happen, suppose if I pass integer here and you do the double, what will happen? Let me try. Okay, it is again giving one error, and if you do the mouse over, you can see type mismatch, cannot convert from store any value with Genex of double to integer. Okay, so it is wrong syntax, you need to use the same thing. So let me remove this one. Okay, a generic class can have multiple type parameters. Okay, means you can have, let me create a new class and I will name it as generic class with multiple parameters, and let me open this class. So as the name says, like multiple parameters. So how do we pass the one parameter? We use the T. If you want to pass multiple, then what you have to do? Simply put the comma and put like V or whatever you want to, whatever name you want to give, you can give. So this class is going to take two parameters, T and V. Okay, and if you let me create one value variables, so one will be like private T, then S1, okay, and another will be private V S2. Okay, one more thing, it might be confusing for beginners. It doesn't mean that whatever type parameters you are passing, you cannot declare any other type of variables. Means if you want to declare something a private string S3, this is also valid. If you want to create another variable called private int something called S4, this is also valid. That doesn't mean that whatever type parameter you are passing, same thing to use here. No, that is not the case. You need to just use the parameter whatever value you want to be parameterized. Okay, like the type of S1 and S2 will depend how the object of this class is created. Okay, then you can have like again one constructor, maybe public generic. Okay, so here let me create a constructor, and what I'm going to do, I will do T S1 V S2 but string S3 and int S4, right? And what I'm going to do, this dot, here I am trying to show you that we can use the multiple parameters, multiple type parameters, and we can you can use mix of values here, right? Mix of different types. It doesn't matter that, or doesn't mean that whatever value you are passing, whatever type parameter you are passing, you need to use the same thing here, right? No. And again same thing here also. So if you want to print the values, so public maybe void, I am not going to return anything, but print values. Okay, so this class is showing that how can you use the multiple type parameters, and how we can use it with the different types as well. We are not going to use T and V everywhere. Wherever we require, just simply parameterize that part. Now the question will come, how can we use it in our program? So let me go to again same class, okay, and this time I am going to create an object of class with the multiple parameters, right? So Genex class with the Genex class multiple parameters, and here it is saying that okay, I want to pass a string and I want to pass integer. Okay, then I'll give a name as, then again call the constructor, and first thing you need to pass maybe Amod. Okay, let me do the new line so that you can see. Second operator is integer, right? So I'll pass 10. Second is I think again string, so we'll pass Mahajan. And what is the type of S4? 1. Okay, let me call the sysout. Sorry, let me call the new object dot print value, right? Yeah. So let me run the program. Okay, and we should see almost 10 margin 1. So this is the way you can go for multiple. You can instantiate a class with multiple type parameters. Okay, like suppose what will happen if I don't pass this value, pass the type parameters. Okay, means instead of integer I'm not going to pass anything. I simply as name as 3, and I'm not going to pass anything here. So what will happen? So you see we don't see any error, but you see the yellow line. If you mouse over, you can see store this is a class name, is a raw type. Reference to generic type, this one should be parameterized. Okay, what is meaning of this one? We are saying that this is generic class. Okay, and if you don't pass the type parameter, okay, then it is a raw type. Okay, again this is making no sense because you need to go for casting and all. So that's why it is called generic type. So whenever you are going to use any generic class, make sure that you pass the parameter. Okay, so I think that's all in this video. Let me cover one more small concept. Whatever you see here, okay, this is called this part, right? This is called parameter type. Okay, type parameter. Okay, and when you create an object, we pass the value like this, right? This is called type argument. Okay, so this is the minor difference between type parameter and type argument. So when you define a generic class, that is called type parameter. When you pass the value to it, means the integer, string, double, whatever, that is type arguments. Okay, so we'll see more topics in Genex in upcoming videos. So if you have any doubt, please comment on this video. If you really like my videos, please like, comment, subscribe and share with others. Thank you everyone.